You're in a good place now. You are listening to Perspectives with Ashley Burgess.
Welcome back live to Live Your True Life Perspectives, and I'm your host, Ashley Burgess. Tonight I'm talking about adult ADD. Attention deficit hyper disorder or attention deficit disorder. What it means if you have it as an adult. How to understand that, yes, this indeed is my cross to bear. How it looks in life on a day-to-day basis, but better yet, what you can do to begin to overcome some of the symptoms of ADD, how to know where certain things are coming from, and how to offset and overcome any damage that might come your way because you suffer from ADD. And, it's funny because oftentimes we feel that, as kids, if you were diagnosed as a child with ADD, we feel that we're going to overcome it immediately as an adult. And that it's not an adult disease, really. I don't have a disease, and that eventually it'll go away. And miraculously, we will have a organized home, an organized office, a clean car, all of our ideas, functionally analyzing everything, knowing that, yes, we are the most organized, on top of things, never running late individual on the planet. It's funny how ADD is one of those things that a lot of us deal with. And there's a lot of symptoms and kind of like, milestones that we deal with when we have ADD. But as an adult, things don't really change. And I think when I was a kid, I remember I got diagnosed with attention deficit hyper disorder, ADHD. And I got diagnosed with ADHD, and the doctor was like, we need to put you on Ritalin. And I had just turned 6 years old because they don't want you to be on any sort of ADD medication before the age of 5. And at 5, it's kind of highly, because remember, we're all growing at 5 years old all the way up until whenever, and it can stunt your growth and it can change things. So they don't really want to prescribe it that early. But, there I am. I was on the Ritalin train. And before I was on the Ritalin train, I did my first grade. And this is going to make you laugh because if it doesn't make you laugh, it'll just make you cry because you will have connected with what I'm talking about. So first grade, I had a teacher named Miss Austin. God bless Miss Austin. I do not talk negatively about anybody, but she was a tough cookie. She was a tough cookie. I wondered if she was one of those teachers in Men in Black, in the video where they show the aliens. Anyway, I'm just kidding. No hard feelings, aliens, by the way. I was just making fun. Seriously, she was tough, okay? And I sat, I think it was like on the second or third row. And you remember the desks where the plastic chair was attached to the desk and it came around and it kind of like pivoted, and it had a little desk, the little kind of like Formica desk that looked like wood, And if you got a fellow ADD person, you would have gotten stuff like scrawled and cut into the Formica wood, like the initials or a heart or, some sort of 4-letter word. And I remember first grade, and we would read passages out of a book, and you would have to read it out loud, like you would get called on in the class, and you would read it out loud. And you would talk about like the meaning of the paragraph or the meaning of the sentence or whatever that looked like. And so I remember being in class, and when other kids would be talking, like to raise their hand or they got called on, I had a tendency of either talking to the person next to me, talking to the person behind me, touching the back of the person in front of me saying, hey, what's up? Or I would make my own fun. And it's funny how I look back at that with somewhat great nostalgia, but I remember I would constantly be talking or into something. And I remember every single day by 2 hours into the class, my name was written in chalk on the chalkboard. Ashley. And it usually accompanied a B after it because there was a couple of Ashleys in the room. And I was Ashley Burgess, and I'm Ashley Burgess, but they were Ashley whoever. So Ashley B. With a little period after the B. And it was up there in white chalk. And throughout the day, I would acquire checks next to my name, checks. And a check would mean that I had done something else. I had interrupted somebody. I had talked out of turn. I had disrupted the class in some way, shape, or form. I had made some funny joke. Whatever that looked like, I had done it. And eventually, usually about once a week, I would have 4 to 5 checks next to my name. And you know what that meant? That meant that it was time to head down to the principal's office and to explain myself with the principal. And it sucked because, you would walk down that long hallway and walk into the principal's office. Well, first off, it was the secretary of the school, and you would talk to her, and she knew me very well. And she'd be like, "Hi, Ashley." I'd be like, "Hello." She's like, "In trouble again, huh?" And it was constant. And I remembered it was like kind of painful too, because, I was always getting sent down to the principal's office and told that I had to read more or whatever it was that I had to do in the consequences of screwing around during class. And I remember eventually, probably after several times of my mother being called and my parents coming in for parent evaluation, it came to a crescendo that they had to do something. And I remember the principal said, you need to go take Ashley to a doctor and you need to see about putting her on medication. We think she's got ADD. And my mom at the time was like, "Oh my God, what's ADD? Is that a disease?" And they're like, "It's attention deficit disorder." And it was like all the rage back then, all the rage, Everybody has ADD. So I remember we went to the doctor, and the doctor was like, okay, Ashley needs to get on this pill called Ritalin. And Ritalin is going to help her to get her crap together. It'll shut her up, and it'll have her focus. And sure enough, that was the end of the check marks in Mrs. Austin's class. It's funny. I remember prior to taking that pill, we had show and tell, and I brought my dog Snuggles to show and tell, which was so cool. Snuggles was a Pomeranian, a little redhead Pomeranian named Snuggles. It was a girl dog. I love that dog. Oh my God. And I brought Snuggles in her little cage, her little carrier, and I got to present Snuggles to the class, but then I had to put her back in her little carry case, for the airplane type thing or for the car. And I remember she's like, I was having to feed her my pencils and stuff because she was so crazy. She's wanting to bark and go crazy. And finally, my mom or dad came and picked her up. But I remember that like it was yesterday. But I remember all of a sudden everything changed. And I became the kid that everybody kind of looked up to. And the teacher was like, "Oh my God, what happened to this kid? Things have changed." And that's what happened. And I remember all of a sudden school got easier. School got a lot easier. My grades went up. But then my parents started seeing things because of the medicine that they didn't like. And besides the fact that they felt like I had become very cookie cutter in nature and attitude and action, there was also some other things like constant blinking of my eyes and things like that because I was on this medication. And so my parents got freaked out and took me off. And so understanding that for about a whole year, I had straight A's, everything was great, and then they took me off, and there I am again trying to figure out how to focus and how to read and how to see things clearly, and it became troublesome. And sure, I got through school and I did really great, and even in high school, I remember middle school was okay, and elementary school was fine. There was a couple of teachers like Miss Burleson that was too tough to deal with and made fun of me for not doing very well in math. Shame on her at the time. That's evil to do to a child, you know what I mean? When you make fun of a kid because they they don't do something that well. It really is kind of just sad. And God bless her. I'm sure she was having a tough day, but, I'm sure these kids just, kicking her butt left and right. But it's tough when somebody tells you, or makes fun of you from a teacher's perspective because you're trying so hard. And especially when it's hard to focus, you find all kinds of different issues and you start getting kind of down on yourself. But anyway, I picked myself up by the bootstraps and I got through school, and I did actually very well. But how do you deal with it as an adult? And so things haven't changed. I didn't get over it. I didn't get the cure or the serum, the anti-ADD, anti-disruptive, organized pill. I'm still dealing with it. So stay tuned. Listen to the show because I'm going to be talking about adult ADD, how you can deal with it, how to overcome it, and small things that you can integrate in your day-to-day life that will work magic. Live your true life perspectives with your host, me, Ashley Burgess. Be back this time in 2 shakes.
Turn it up and jump in the deep end on Perspectives. Now, here's Ashley.
Welcome back live to Live Your True Life Perspectives, and I'm your host, Ashley Burgess. This episode of Live Your True Life Perspectives is sponsored by GameFly. GameFly lets you rent over 8,000 games and videos and movies with no due dates or late fees. And for a free 30-day trial, including 1 game rental, visit GameFlyOffer.com/Ashley. We're talking about ADD, attention deficit disorder. What it means as an adult to have ADD, how to deal with it, what are some of the symptoms, but better yet later on, some of the magic things you can do to overcome it and to get to that other level and actually, I know, can you believe it? Actually use your ADD to your advantage. I know. There's really an advantage point, I'm telling you. I mean, sure, you got to look at the silver lining playbook. You got to look at the silver lining of this. I get it. But it's really not that bad. I mean, some of the most biggest, amazing geniuses in the world diagnosed with ADD, basically. Think about it. Like Benjamin Franklin even had ADD. I mean, some of the biggest thinkers in our world have and had ADD and had to overcome it and had to figure out how to actually deal with it. So how do you deal with your own ADD and how do you know you have it? I think for the most part, many of you listening already know if you have it or not. And we're not having to put our first foot forward, our ADD foot forward. But, we need to know honestly what we're dealing with, what we're up against, and how can we make it work for us on anything in life. Whether it's ADD or anger issues, insecurities, or God complex, or whatever it is, we have to realize that we have it and how to deal with it. Some of the first things about ADD that I find interesting is the biggest thing is being disorganized. One of the biggest symptoms of ADD is being disorganized. And that's one of the biggest things because we are disorganized. I know for a fact, okay, I did not get the organizational gene when I was born. I've never had it. I have tried and tried and tried. I mean, when they say sickness and health, that's one of my sicknesses, okay? Seriously. And my husband knew what he was getting into when he visited me before, when we started hanging out and we were dating before we ever moved in together. He knew what he was dealing with. Okay, that's just the way it is. I've always been a piler. Okay, I try my best not to, but that comes with the territory. My father is a piler. Okay, I bet his father was a piler. Seriously, my mother, on the other hand, the opposite. Completely and utterly organized. Even her closet with wrapping paper is organized by holiday, subject matter, and color. I threw my wrapping paper in a bag at the top of a closet, and that's the organizational pile that I have. Yes, it's painful, I know. But I know this about me, and I know that I can work really hard, and I know that I can do my best, but it's not ever going to be perfect. Okay. Like excelling in organization, like the Container Store calling me up and saying, hey, Ashley, out of everybody in the world, you're the best organizer on the planet, and we'd like you to do a full country tour on how to organize your closet. And Martha Stewart's going to be on there with you, and Snoop Dogg is going to smoke a bunch of weed too in the closet and hotbox y'all while you're doing this, and it's going to be all over the planet. Yeah, no, they're not going to do that. Okay, like they're going to see my closet and they're going to say that woman needs our help. Okay, so I get that. I know that I'm not going to turn in my disorganization into a way of life. And I also know that I'm trying to work at it. And I know that the less stuff that I accumulate, the better. And so I constantly work on non-accumulation because I've already accumulated all this stuff in my past and I'm still dealing with it. Okay, I am not a hoarder. Not a hoarder. And I am clean, but I am disorganized. I've come out with it, okay? Seriously, if you could use the bathtub to organize files, I would. Yes. Because I don't really take baths that often. I mean, and so I would literally have an organization, a file cabinet for at least, quite a bit of time during the week that otherwise would not be used. Do you see what I'm saying? It's more where my mindset is. I can come up with some genius plans and ideas. However, my husband would freak the heck out if I was to turn the bathtub into a file cabinet. But you see what I'm saying? I'm working really hard to stay organized, but it's really, really going up. It's like going uphill both ways and trying to make right what is a genetic predisposition. Okay, so it's funny how my mom has ADD too, though. Like she can organize, and maybe she has a little OCD as well. Okay, but she can organize. My dad can't. My dad is one of those kind of people like me that he gets on a plane and he reads an article in a magazine. And so after he reads the article and he's like into the article and he wants to read it again, he just pulls that article out, folds it and brings it home. And that goes into his pile of articles he'd like to read again. Yes, I got it completely honestly. Okay, that is the way the world works. I'm sure you can find extrapolations to that concept right now in your own toolbox of crazy when it comes to your family. But you see what I'm saying? Like, I got this hook, line, and sinker. And so the first symptom I have is disorganization. I am disorganized. And it's been a tough time my whole life because I have been surrounded by organized people and everybody's been very cool with me and nice and everything else. But in all honesty, it's been very tough because it doesn't come first nature to me. And I have a tendency when it comes to organization, I have a tendency to put off anything that has to do with organizing. So I really put it off. Like I get so stressed out by it that I can't deal with it, if that makes sense. And so I delay it. And then in my delaying of the process, I have all this stuff building up, and then I delay it and delay it and delay it, and then it becomes a total mess. And then I don't know what to do with it. And then I get stressed out if anybody tries to help me with it because I don't want them throwing away my stuff. And usually I have some really great stuff that's all embedded in this other stuff because I have put everything into these piles. Okay. For example, I've gone through piles before where there were refund checks in a pile, cash, anything, very important things that if all thrown away would be pretty sad. And I understand somebody, saying, oh, well, if you haven't looked at that pile in a month, then you don't need it. But that's not true. The IRS doesn't say, oh, you threw it away last month. Oh, it's okay. No worries. You don't need to keep that stuff for 7 years. Right? Yeah, you do. You do. Yeah. And so I have a tendency of keeping stuff, but I don't file it. And so it becomes like this mayhem. And I get into the concept of being disorganized. And then I like to put off the fact that I don't want to organize because I'm stressed out about it and I don't want anybody else touching it. So it becomes like this phenomenal stress point in my life. And if you're experienced any of that, you know what it feels like. A good example is I need to sell some clothes, whether it's on like a clothing app or in a consignment store, and I have a rack of clothes that I need to sell because they're either too small or too big, what have you, and it's time to sell them. Well, I haven't gotten around to it. I've been talking about it for a year. A whole year. And anytime that Greg gets close to that rack of clothes and he gets like, hey, we could really get in this closet if you could do something with this stuff, I get stressed out. I get angry. I get like, this is my stuff and don't touch it. And I get very territorial because, again, I go back to the stress and the anger of trying to organize because it doesn't come second nature to me. It's not something that I'm very good at. And so then I kind of get like, frustrated and anxious, and then I don't want to deal with it. And then it seems too big to deal with, and it's like too much to overcome. And then I kind of like fall into like this ball and this trap. And there I am again, looking at those clothes again a month later going, man, I still haven't done anything. And it becomes overwhelming. And I've realized that in order to deal with things that become overwhelming, we've got to take a piece out of it. And we've got to keep doing it. And we've got to focus on it. And we've got to actually make it a day-to-day thing, at least a little bit. And I'll talk more about that later, because once you're able to begin to do that, you don't have to keep putting off all this stuff, and it becomes easier to digest. Check out the website, ashleyburgess.com, ashleyberges.com. Click on that contact page and send me a message if you'd like to work with me and me become your coach or your therapist, or you just have a question or a comment about the show. I want to hear from you. Stay tuned, because Live Your True Life Perspectives with your host, me, Ashley Burgess, will be back this time. I'll be back this time in 2 shakes.
This is Jake Busey, and you're listening to Perspectives with Ashley Burgess.
Welcome back live to Live Your True Life Perspectives, and I'm your host, Ashley Burgess. This episode of Perspectives is sponsored by GameFly. GameFly has over 8,000 newly released and classic games available for rent for one low monthly fee. As a GameFly member, you can rent as many console and handheld games as you want and get them delivered right to your mailbox. They are shipped to you to arrive on the actual game release date, so there's no more standing outside and waiting for that game at a midnight release. You can rent all the classic games, the Xbox One, Xbox 360, PS4, PS3, the Wii, and the list goes on. And don't forget, there's also movies as well. 1 disc plan is $15.95, 2 disc plan is $22.95. There's no contracts, there's no due dates, and there's no late fees. So instead of buying 2 to 3 games a year, you can actually get this membership. Visit gamefly.com/Ashley to sign up for a premium 30-day trial, and that includes 1 free game rental. Once again, it's gameflyoffer.com/Ashley. We're talking tonight about ADD. ADD, guys, ADD. We're talking about ADD, attention deficit disorder. And I'm an adult with attention deficit disorder. Wah, yeah. I mean, how many times have you gone on Facebook just to check out something and it's an hour later and you go, crap? Think about it. How many of you have found yourselves in the depths of your closet going, man, when they gave out that genetic gene for organizing, I must have been out at the all-night party up here in Creation World, okay? Because apparently I didn't get that genetic predisposition. They forgot that in the DNA double helix. They left that out. They left that out, and they left out ability to deal with allergies on this planet. Seriously, though. And when you're dealing with that and you're dealing with ADD as an adult, yes, you can be disorganized. You can find yourself running late, right? How many of you are running late to events and meetings and you go, well, you're doing your best. I mean, like, you do your best, and you still show up late, right? And then you got to put in extra. You got to show up, you got to stay later. If it's an event, you got to stay past the end, make good on everything. And you find yourself a little scattered when it comes to dealing with stuff that you need to deal with because you have all this in your mind, right? All of this in your mind. What am I going to do next? What do I need to do next? What's important? What's not important? What's most important now? And you got to really formulate a plan because otherwise you will be all over the place. And I understand some of y'all are saying, well, you know what, Ashley, I'll be honest. I got myself on a medication and I'm okay right now. But you know what? I'm going to be honest with you. That medication has side effects, honey. That medication has side effects, okay? Sure, you're focusing on what you're focusing on, but what about all the other stuff, right? I have some friends that are on A.D.D medication as an adult, and it's funny because you'll call them and they'll be heading over to your office, and an hour will go by, and they should have been here an hour ago, and they're still not here. And you call them, you're like, oh, yeah, I got all into this project I'm working on. Well, you know what? You are on A.D.D medication. The flip side is that when you see your friends and genetically you've seen their parents and there's no way, not only their parents, but just the genetic predisposition that they can be that skinny. Okay? That is a sign that your adult friend is taking A.D.D medication, and quite a bit of it for that matter. And one of the big telltale signs that you have a friend that's medicated on A.D.D medication is that they're even later than you are. They're even later than you are, and they get all engrossed in whatever they're working on, and they totally forget. But for all you out there that either want to get off medication or aren't on medication, you feel my pain. You feel my pain because you understand where it comes from, right? Because this is a big deal. I mean, we don't want to be scattered. We don't want to be disorganized. We want to live a normal life. But we got to figure out how to maintain that and how to, better yet, create it. You know, one of the symptoms of ADD, and when I was on medication for it, I ended up getting back on medication. I guess it was before I got my second degree in college. It was just hard. And it was hard to focus and it was hard to read. And so I got on it, and man, all of a sudden, you know, I ended up graduating that degree on the dean's list with a 4.0. Yeah, I know. I mean, I could have done it without the medicine, but it was a lot easier with it. And then I took myself off of it. But during the time that I was on the medication, I was completely impulsive as well. Like, I would have a tendency of buying stuff and then feeling regretful for it because I really couldn't afford it. Or it wasn't something I really needed. And how many of you have recently gone out to the mall or wherever and bought something you did not need? And it was like this evil genius got into your brain and was like, you need this. You need this right now. This is what you need. And in my case, it was like some sort of pair of designer shoes. And I finally hit rock bottom when it came to my impulsivity on spending. I call it retail therapy. Okay. I hit rock bottom on retail therapy when I found a pair of boots at Neiman Marcus. And they were the most amazing boots I've ever seen. However, they were the most, I don't know, like, I'm never going to wear these. Like, really, honestly, I'm never going to wear over-the-knee leather boots. I mean, it's just not really my style. But I had to have them. And I remember putting them on. And the sales guy was like, you look so amazing in them. Oh my God. Where have those boots been all your life? Ashley, really, think about it. I mean, these are the boots that'll put you on the map. And I remember I bought these boots and I came home with them and I didn't wear them for 3 weeks. And I'm like, what am I doing? I need to take them back. And I remember taking them back with my head down going, these are the boots that were going to put me on the map. But it's like I had to buy them for no actual reason. And then when I bought them, I felt bad about it. It's part of the spending and impulsivity it is that comes with being ADD. It's part of it. I mean, when I was younger, I'd make some of the stupidest decisions when it came to who I was hanging out with and what I was going to do. Oh, yeah, I need to be home in like 5 minutes, but yeah, let's go drive an hour away to this party and then I'll deal with it later. I mean, seriously, I did that. Like, I remember like, oh yeah, let's do it. That sounds great. It was the craziest, stupidest thing you could possibly do. But at the time, it sounded so logical and just easy breezy. And it was absolutely not that at all. And then I got in trouble. I got grounded by my parents because I did the bonehead thing. And then in order to try to make up for it on the way home, I just sped at 100 miles an hour thinking, you know what, well, whatever I put on, I'll just take off. And I'll get there in time. I'll get there 20 minutes late and I'll come up with something. No, it didn't work that way. When you get pulled over by 3 police officers and you're under the age of 17, they don't let you just go like quick. They want to hold on to you, so there's no way possible of making your curfew. Absolutely no way possible. And I look back at those times with great nostalgia as well. However, I made bad choices because I didn't think through them. And one of the things about ADD is that we don't think through our choices wise enough. And there's a tendency of not putting enough emphasis on certain things and having problems later. And one of those things is retail therapy. So if you see yourself in a lot of credit card debt and you have a lot of stuff, or you don't know what to show for that credit card debt, you might be suffering from adult ADD. And adult ADD can also show up in a way that it can actually kind of seem like depression, because when you have ADD, it can kind of mimic that. Because you don't get a lot done. You're not able to concentrate. Because you're not able to concentrate, you feel kind of, behind the 8 ball. Because you feel behind the 8 ball, you feel as though you can't get anything done. Because you feel like you can't get anything done, you feel sad about yourself. Because you feel sad about yourself, you begin to have a low self-esteem. Low self-esteem leads to what? Feeling sad, angry, depressed. And there you go. And all of a sudden, you look like you have full-on depression. And that's a side effect of ADD, because you feel as though the world is passing you by, you feel as though you can't get a good grip on things, and you feel as though you're losing out on the whole situation. When I return, I'll be talking about what you can do to get past the being disorganized, to get past being overwhelmed, to get past the scattered, brain waves, and to overcome the spinning and the impulsivity, and the things you can do that's magic that can create an amazing life where you can deal with your ADD, but also put your ADD to work for you, because there's certain things that it can do that's amazing, and you need to be aware of this to better your own life. Stay tuned. Check out the website, ashleyburgess.com. Listen to Perspectives, Live Your True Life Perspectives on stations across the country, as well as iHeart, Spreaker, Stitcher, and Google Play. Live Your True Life Perspectives. There's me, Ashley Burgess, be back this time. I'll be back this time in 2 shakes.
You could be my luck. Get in here. You're listening to Perspectives with Ashley Burgess.
Welcome back live to Live Your True Life Perspectives, and I'm your host, Ashley Burgess. Tonight I'm talking about ADD, Adult Attention Deficit Disorder, and what you can do about it. The symptoms we talked about earlier, the symptoms of being impulsive, spending money, being disorganized, being scatterbrained, being late for every freaking event you go to, all that good stuff rolled up in one. And I've been just talking about, honestly, the negative aspects of ADD, because there's more to it. There's more to it. There really is. There's a magic hour when it comes to ADD. There's some really cool stuff that you can do better than anybody else can do because you have it. Because it makes us work faster, stronger, better. And when we're able to understand the things that we're good at and our shortcomings, we can actually take the bull by the horn and really, really, really make our life pretty successful. So right now I want to talk about the magic things you can do as an adult with ADD. What you can do without medication to offset the problematic situations and to create a life worth living that people will look at you and go, man, they have it all together. The first thing is that oftentimes in our society today, we do something oftentimes. And what we do is we have a tendency, of wanting to be like everybody else. So when we see somebody successful, we go, oh God, I wish I was that successful. Like, how many of you back in the day saw Tiger Woods as like this young golf player and said, I wish my parents would have taught me how to play golf back when I was young. Could have had something growing for me. I could have had a career. Right? Yeah, I know. We get all down on ourselves, or we see that one kid that starts their own business at 12 and like they're like a billionaire at the age of 21, and everybody's like, man, my life sucks. You know, or you see the person that knows 7 languages or has 5 degrees, and you go, yeah, I'm still getting the extended plan here, and I'm not even going to medical school. So what's the first thing that we do that can really help us and change the dynamic with our ADD? And that first thing you can do is to create your own pace. Life is about your own pace. It's not about anybody else's pace. It's not about catching up with the Joneses. It's not about, your best friend's pace. It's not about what you've read about what Success Magazine says is the perfect successful pace. It's about yours. So what is your pace in life? What do you love doing? What are some of the favorite things in your life? What do you love doing? Tell me. Think about these kinds of things, because when you begin to realize it's not a competition, it's a journey. And then you begin to realize that nobody can do your job, your career, your life better than you. And then you realize there's no set way in stone of how to do it. And then you realize that nobody has like the holy grail of the work ethic. You begin to realize that you too have promise. No matter some of the shortcomings or the problems that go with it, you too have promise. Let me give you a good example. A good example is the artist, the painter, that also suffers from depression. Sure, the painter would love to not have to deal with her depression or his depression. But how much of that depression also helps in the painting process? How much of that allows for artistic help and also challenges the artist to really focus on some deep stuff? Much like that artist is you. Suffering and dealing with ADD and dealing to overcome it. How much of that ability, of those certain traits can help you to do something in life? What can it do to help you? Think about it. We have the ability to think faster than many people. We can see many, many steps ahead than most. We can use that to our distinct advocation as far as our vantage point. Okay. And all this stuff can be wrapped up into an amazing, cool little like box with a bow on it. But we just have to realize the pace and the timing that we need. It's not going to be the same as everybody else. It's going to be a little different. Once we begin to realize at the time that you need to wake up in the morning, what you needed to take care of the night before, what you want to take care of in the morning, the direction you want to go, how much coffee you need, how much espresso do you need, what do you need to focus besides taking pharmaceuticals? What can you take? Can you eat a certain way? Can you take some over-the-counter vitamins like ginkgo biloba to really focus and harness your brain, coupled with cat's claw? That can help. And you know that they've actually recently seen that cat's claw can actually help you to offset dementia and Alzheimer's because it actually works to eliminate the plaques in your brain. Because of that, there's a lot of promising stuff on the horizon that you, as somebody that's suffering from ADD, can actually use to benefit you. I actually take a combination of ginkgo biloba and cat's claw every morning. And I take this because it opens my brain. It really makes me think clearly. And I've been out of it for the whole week. I can't believe it. But I normally drink a couple of espressos in the morning. I've been out of it all week. It's been like painful. But I just started drinking that about a year ago, and it's really worked wonders. And it's something that you might want to think about because it goes a long way to focusing your energy in a very quick, dynamic, not a lot of side effects way. And it's great. And it doesn't make you feel jittery or jumpy or anything like that. So the first thing is creating your own pace, right? The second thing is creating your arsenal. My arsenal contains vitamins, minerals, like I was telling you about, the ginkgo and the cat's claw, It contains several notebooks where I can write things down and not put them in my phone because I will lose them. It contains a day planner that is an actual paper day planner. Yes, I am old school. I am not sad about being old school. I'm actually quite happy about being old school because I write everything down. I write it down because otherwise I wouldn't remember. I write it down because you know what? That's what I do. That's who I am. And that's what I want to be. I want to be able to have everything all written down in one place where I know exactly where I need to be at what time. Okay. The last thing somebody with ADD needs is to have 15 different appointments swirling around in their head all day long, trying to remember them, trying to hold them up like doing calisthenics, and at the same time trying to actually be in other meetings and conversating about certain things and keeping all that in your mind. So the arsenal is a day planner, a notebook, vitamins and minerals, and also armed with your way of doing things. Your way is as original as you are, not trying to be a cookie cutter and trying to fit in like everybody else, but realizing that ADD can hold you back, but it can also help you. You know, the next thing that you want to do is to focus on what you do best. When we focus on what we do best, we do great things. When we focus on what we do best, we realize and we put our best foot forward and we really self-actualize on that process. And the reason why I say that is we're not focusing on what we don't do that good on. When we begin to focus on what we're not doing that good on, for example, if every morning I woke up, all I focused on was not being organized, that would be a sheer problem. I would feel less than, I would not feel very successful, I would see all the problems in the system, and I would ultimately say, you know what, I really suck and I'm done with this crap. Instead, I realize that to some degree, I do have to focus on bettering some of those things in my life. However, I do not really focus on that, for otherwise I wouldn't get out of bed. So focusing on what you do best. What do you do best? Are you great at math? Are you great at English? Are you great at communicating? Are you great at sales? What are you great at? Nonprofit. What are you great at? What do you love to do? Are you a great parent? Think about those things and use that to your advantage. Always put your best foot forward. The next thing you want to do is maximize your strengths and minimize your failures. Life is too short to focus on our failures. Life is too short to try to be the best at what we're failing at. It's so much easier to be the best at what we're best at and work at what we're not doing that great at, or work hard enough that you make enough money to find someone else to hire to do what you don't do good at. Because you can't do everything perfectly. It just doesn't work that way. And if you've ever met anybody that does a lot of things really great, you know that they're all over the map. Okay. And that happens to a lot of folks with ADD, is you do a lot of things great, but you don't really focus on one thing. And what happens then, you know it, you end up being all over the place, completely discombobulating, having too much to do and not being able to really focus on what you need to be doing. So minimizing those thoughts that you think you fail in and those things that you fail in, and maximizing those strengths. And that's what makes for such an amazing time in this life, because we don't have to be the best at everything. Okay. We just need to focus on what we are and be able to acknowledge and see how amazing we are in those certain specific things. So think about it. You can create magic no matter what. Even though you have ADD, you can create amazing magic. And part of your magic is having attention deficit disorder. Makes you focus on different things. And you normally see the big picture a lot more than other people do. Stay amazing. Stay living true. Be authentic. Live your true life perspectives with your host, me, Ashley Burgess, will be back this time. You know what? Yeah. Well, wait a second. Don't forget to check out the website. Don't forget to send a contact page to me. Reach out to me if you'd like me to work with you as a therapist or a life coach, or you'd like to have a comment or a thought for an upcoming show. I want to hear from you. Okay, that's it. So stay tuned. Live your true life perspectives with your host, me, Ashley Burgess. Will be back this time. You know it. I'll be back this time in 3 shakes.